Innovación, tecnología, constancia, experiencia, progreso, son algunas de las palabras que vienen a la mente para describir lo que representa la Escuela Superior Politécnica Litoral. Y es que luego de estos primeros 50 años, como resultado de sus logros, la ESPOL tiene un muy destacado sitial entre las entidades de educación superior en el país y también a nivel internacional. Steve Wozniak representa ese espíritu innovador, tecnológico, internacional, que liderando cambios que mejoran la calidad de vida, a su vez van sirviendo de motivación para que muchos otros también intenten, experimenten, investiguen, desarrollen, innoven, inventen, creen.
Right over here, we've got the very first computer we ever built, long before we even started a company. And back in those days, you had to scrounge all the components you could for as free or as cheap as you could. And there's probably under $200 total that ever went into buying a few parts at the local electronics store. I hand-wired the entire bottom, soldered it all together personally, because there was no way to afford a technician. And that was an Apple I, the first Apple I computer ever. The case, we didn't deliver them in a case. It was sort of like everyone, you had to customize yourself, so a friend's father built the case.
Technology needs leaders. Things are just spoiled if they're repeat. We need leaders that step into the future. And the humble origins of Apple are the reason that Apple is one of the leaders to this day. I'm going to remind, before I start, on a story of how we founded this company by mentioning that Steve Jobs and I were in our young 20s. We had never worked in any business capacity. We had never taken any business courses in university. We had no money. We had no bank accounts, no cash that we could get, no cars that we owned outright. So it was a very unusual start for a big company as noted as Apple.
Over here, as we work our way through the time tunnel, exhibits on the software which we had to write ourselves. Couldn't afford tools like assemblers, so we had to learn how to assemble it ourselves by hand on paper. And it was a very unusual experience for such a successful product. Got examples of the interface boards that we had to design to plug accessories into the first Apple II computers. Here's an Apple I PC board. The keyboards over time evolved. The first keyboard I bought from Datanetics because I saw an electronics magazine advertising it for $60, and that was cheap in those days. And we evolved it over the years and added features and keys. The cassette tapes were how we stored our software in the original days, because we didn't have a floppy disk until about a year after we introduced the Apple II computer. And way in the corner is an example of how you had to customize every individual Apple I, because we did not supply a case with the computer. And that would be the first. We originally conceived of these as the Apple I and the Apple II as the first portable computers of all time. And of course, the word has changed over time.
We had a lot of great dreams of how these computers were going to revolutionize society. All of a sudden, the person who knew how to write a program, like all of us, who were poor little engineers at the bottom of the org chart, we were going to go into our companies, plug in the financial data, calculate some financial numbers, and have better information than their big, huge, multi-million-dollar computers with their high-paid programmers and all. We were going to be more important than the CEOs in our company. What an incredible dream to motivate a person. Any teacher will tell you it's much more important to motivate than even the content that you actually teach. We talked about education, how children in school read a book, but they only use 10% of their mind. Well, now with computers, the computer would present the information, and the child could type back. It was interactive, and then the computer could correct them and explain to them what was wrong and what the right answer was. And they would learn so much better, they would now use 100% of their brain. And I was very scared that in a few years, all these kids were going to put all the adults out of business. I was very scared. But I actually believed all these things. We talked about how people were going to be able to, with a modem, leave a message on another big computer, and hundreds of people could read the message. It would allow us to organize things like peace marches and things like that.